The dark web feels like a fortress. Encrypted browsers, hidden servers, anonymous currencies, untraceable messages. People log onto Tor thinking they've disappeared into a digital shadow world where no one can ever find them. And yet, year after year, the FBI keeps pulling people out of that shadow world in handcuffs. So how does this actually happen? How does an agency catch people who are using tools specifically designed to make them invisible? The truth is that the dark web is not actually as dark as people think, and the FBI has built an entire playbook for peeling back its layers one mistake at a time. Let's start at the very bottom, the entry level of dark web crime. This is the person who just discovered a marketplace. Maybe they're buying something small. Maybe they're testing the waters to sell something illegal for the first time. At this level, almost nobody gets caught because of some brilliant hack into Tor itself. They get caught because of basic human error. They use the same username on the dark web that they use on Reddit or Instagram. They post about their illegal activity in a public forum before moving to encrypted channels. They ship packages using their real home address, or they pick them up from a mailbox that can be traced back to them through postal records. Law enforcement doesn't need to break encryption to catch these people. They just need to follow a trail of digital breadcrumbs that beginners don't even realize they're leaving behind. This is why FBI training around cybercrime often starts with old-fashioned detective work, cross-referencing usernames, checking email addresses against data breaches, and tracing IP addresses that leak through misconfigured software. Now move up a level to the people who think they're being careful. They're using Tor properly, they've got a VPN running, maybe they've even heard of Tails, the operating system built for anonymity. This is where the FBI starts using more advanced tricks, and one of the most famous is the Honeypot. Law enforcement has, on multiple occasions, secretly taken over dark web marketplaces or forums after arresting the people who ran them, and instead of shutting the sites down immediately, they keep them running under their own control. This happened with a well-known child exploitation site that the FBI operated for almost 2 weeks in order to identify users, and it happened again in an even larger case where global law enforcement agencies quietly ran a criminal marketplace called AlphaBay's replacement site for months, allowing them to intercept messages, track transactions, and identify buyers and sellers who thought they were operating safely. When a platform is secretly law enforcement, every message becomes evidence and every login becomes a fingerprint. At this same level, there's also the issue of malware deployment. In certain investigations, especially those tied to serious offenses like child exploitation, the FBI has used what's called a network investigative technique, which is essentially government-deployed malware. When someone visits a compromised site, hidden code executes on their computer that reports back their real IP address, sometimes even their MAC address or other system identifiers, cutting straight through the anonymity that Tor is supposed to provide. This tool was central to breaking open the Playpen investigation, one of the largest dark web cases in FBI history, where agents ran the site from a server they controlled and deployed this technique against thousands of visitors. Moving further up to people running or heavily involved in marketplaces is where blockchain analysis becomes the FBI's most powerful weapon. Most people assume cryptocurrency is anonymous, but Bitcoin and many other coins actually keep a public, permanent ledger of every transaction ever made. It's not tied to your name directly, but if any part of that transaction chain touches an exchange that requires identification, or if the same wallet is reused in multiple transactions, patterns start to emerge. Companies like Chainalysis work directly with the FBI, mapping out wallet clusters, been following the flow of money from a dark web purchase all the way back to a cash-out point at a regulated exchange. This is exactly how they cracked open the Silk Road case. Ross Ulbricht, the man behind Silk Road, believed his platform was untouchable, but investigators traced Bitcoin transactions, matched forum posts asking for programming help on the same topic Silk Road's code required, and eventually connected an early username, a mistake made in the very first days of the site, back to his real identity. He was eventually located and arrested in a public library, caught mid-session with his laptop open, giving agents the chance to grab his device before he could lock it or destroy evidence. This brings up a key point about how the FBI handles the most protected level of dark web crime, the operators themselves, the people running marketplaces, forums, or hacking groups. These are the ones with the best operational security, the ones who understand encryption, use multiple layers of anonymization, and rarely make obvious mistakes. For them, the FBI often has to rely on infiltration.
Undercover agents pose as buyers, sellers, or even administrators inside these communities, slowly building trust over months or years. This is exactly what happened with AlphaBay, once the largest dark web marketplace in the world. Its founder, a young man who thought he had built the perfect anonymous operation, made one critical mistake. He used his personal email address in early forum posts before switching to anonymous ones. That single early link was enough for investigators to build a case, and combined with international cooperation between the FBI, DEA, and European law enforcement agencies, they eventually seized the marketplace's servers, and its founder was arrested in Thailand. Server seizure itself
is another critical tool. Even when someone thinks their site is hidden through Tor's hidden services, that server has to physically exist somewhere. If the FBI can identify the hosting provider, sometimes through subpoenas, sometimes through international partnerships, sometimes through a small misconfiguration that leaks the server's real IP address, they can seize the machine itself. Once they have physical access to a server, they often find logs, chat histories, financial records, and sometimes even the real identities of administrators, all sitting there because criminals assumed the anonymity of Tor meant they never needed to protect the data at rest. There's also the issue of exit nodes and correlation attacks, which is a more technical method used at the highest levels of investigation. Tor works by bouncing your connection through multiple relays before it reaches its destination. But if an agency or a group working with an agency controls a large enough number of these relays, they can sometimes perform what's called a timing correlation attack. By watching when data enters the Tor network and comparing it to when it exits, sophisticated actors can sometimes de-anonymize a connection without breaking any encryption at all. This method is rarely used because it requires enormous resources and is generally reserved for extremely high-value targets, but its existence changes the calculation for even the most careful criminals. No layer of anonymity is treated as permanently unbreakable. Beyond the technical side, there is also old-fashioned confidential informants and cooperating witnesses. Many dark web cases don't start with a hack or a blockchain trace at all. They start with someone getting arrested for something small and unrelated, then agreeing to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence. That person might give up a username, a real name, a location, or details about how a group communicates, and suddenly investigators have an insider view into a community that seemed impossible to penetrate from the outside. This human element remains one of the most effective tools in cybercrime investigations, arguably even more effective than any piece of software. At the very top level, the most protected criminals, the ones with military-grade OPSEC, multiple layers of laundering, and paranoid levels of caution, even they eventually make a mistake, because perfect anonymity for years on end is almost impossible to maintain. Maybe they reuse a PGP key across 2 different identities. Maybe they log into a personal account from the same device they used for their criminal activity, even just once. Maybe they trust the wrong partner, who eventually talks to investigators. The FBI's approach at this level is patience. Some of the largest dark web takedowns in history took years to build, with agents slowly gathering small pieces of evidence until they had enough for search warrants, arrests, and international coordination. What ties all of these levels together is a simple truth. The dark web provides tools for anonymity, but it does not provide guaranteed anonymity. Every layer of protection can be undone by a single mistake, a single reused password, a single moment of carelessness, or a single piece of financial evidence that connects back to a real identity. The FBI does not need to break Tor to catch people. They simply need to be more patient than the criminals are careful. And history has shown again and again that no matter how sophisticated the operation, no matter how deep someone thinks they've buried their identity, that patience eventually